If I can have everybody's attention, please. Spencer, kill the lights. Thank you. Now, Gabrielle, let's face forward. Okay. So, having just graded all of these papers, one of the great things about quizzes is it tells me where you're at as a group. We had 3 people get 100. I was hoping for more like 10. And I saw some mistakes that are fairly common mistakes over the years to see. Hang on a second. Hello?
I was gonna do that.
Thanks, bye. Selena, early release. Okay, so now what I would like to do is graph and explain all the graphs that you see on your paper so that we can straighten out where it is that you're making your mistakes and we don't have to repeat those mistakes anymore. Are you with me? Okay, we got a quiz coming tomorrow. That'll be your first quiz grade of the market period, the best of these 3. And then you can move up. Yeah, but if you're going to move up, make sure you work, right? And then the second thing that's important is that you have a test next Wednesday. So there'll be a quiz tomorrow and then a new series of quizzes after that and then a test next Wednesday. Okay, so without any further ado, the front page, some people, Diana, perhaps Gabriella, some people are not reading the directions. Will somebody please read the directions to number 1? Ishi, go ahead.
What is the equation of the line graph below?
Stop. Say it again, nice and loud.
What is the equation of the line graph below?
Ladies, does it say what is the slope of the line graphed below? They were not the only 2. A number of you wrote down what the slope was. That's great, but you're not answering the question. That's like the waiter coming up to you in the restaurant and saying, what would you like for dinner tonight? And you're saying, you know, I really like a Camaro. That's a hot-looking car. It goes really fast. I feel the need for speed. Great, wonderful. You're not answering the question. So, when we graph a line that looks like this, when you look at a line and you want to know what the equation of a line is, there are 2 things you look for. What are the 2 things you look for when you want the equation of a line? What's one of them? Slope. What's the other one? Yeah, which is called the y-intercept. So you're looking for the slope and you're looking for the y-intercept. Now, look at this line here. What is the y-intercept? -3. Now, just an aside, we'll get to this in a couple of minutes. Some people with a y-intercept of -3 are going out here. Look at me. Some people are calling this the y-intercept. This is not the y-intercept. This is the x-intercept because it's on the x-axis. Where do you find the y-intercept? On what axis? The y-axis. So here is -3 right here. So now I know that my y-intercept is -3. Now what's the slope? To go from point to point to point, I go up how many? Over how many? Up 2 over 1. Now, once you see what the slope is, and once you see what the y-intercept is, the next thing you're going to do is remember y equals mx plus b. Slope is what letter? M. So I'm going to go y equals 2x. You could put 2 over 1. That's fine. And then I don't put the plus sign right away. That assumes it's positive. But in this case, what's the y-intercept?
Negative.
So I just put -3. Now, some people,
Forget the x.
no, they forgot the y equals.
My square is
Got it.
Okay? So don't forget the y equals or I take off like 5 points or 10 points or whatever I took off.
10.
10.
yeah.
Mean, nasty Mr. Linquist. Okay. Now, are we clear on this? Listen, where does the y-intercept go? On the x-axis or the y-axis? Y-axis. How do I find the y-intercept? I do what?
Forget the figure.
How do I find the y-intercept?
You go to the.
I look on the y-axis where it catches the line, just like you catch an intercept pass. And then I see how I move for the slope, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. And then I look for the equation of the line by plugging it into y equals mx plus b. Okay, yes.
What if it was like in between the 2 lines?
Well, I won't give one like that to you.
Okay.
Okay, not on a test anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, and here's my dots and my slope. Okay, so now I ask you for the equation of a line again, and we just said everything begins and revolves around y equals mx plus b. B is the y-intercept. Where does this line touch the y-axis? Obviously here, what is the value there? Everybody? 4. So that means B is 4. Now, how do I move from point to point to point? Down 1 over 1. Down means what?
Negative.
So it's down 1 over 1 if you wish. So y equals negative x plus 4. I could put the 1 in front. I don't have to, because when I don't put anything in front of a number, what do I assume it is? I should say anything in front of a variable. Right, I assume it's 1. So y equals negative x plus 4 is the answer. Yes?
What if you put instead of writing x, would you put 1?
Yes, big time. Because the equation of a line is always in this format, and then x is an important part of that format. If you don't put it there, then you really have y equals negative 1 plus 4, which is which is positive 3. And the name of the line is not y equals 3. Now, yes?
I have a question. Could you just leave it 1 over 1?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's the point I want to make to you guys, and this is the truth. Was it really that hard?
No,
No. You know, I'm looking at the homework here,
I forgot the F.
and I see zeros all over the place. Now, zeros mean that you didn't do the homework. Let me ask you a question. Who here wants to drive one day? You want to be a driver? You want a car? Drive? Okay.
I want to be on the crash.
Would you ever go into your permit test and not study for your permit test? No, because then you might fail. But what if you somehow passed? Would you then turn around and say, okay, let's schedule my road test and then don't practice drive between now and the test? Would you do that? No, because what would obviously happen? You're going to fail. And not only would you fail your road test, but you would be a hazard to every one of the people on the road who know what they're doing, because you would be a disaster. Now, likewise, if I said to you, how many here want to pass this class? I got to tell you, I pay no attention to whether you put your hand up or not. I pay none.
Isn't
I
that
look
the
at this.
participation grade?
If you want to pass the class, I'm going to see who's doing their homework. I'm going to see who, if they don't do well on a test, does the relearn packet. I'm going to see who, on their quizzes, improves every day. Not necessarily gets perfect, but you can see that they put some effort into it, that they get better. That's who wants to pass. Look, if I said to you, man, I want to get in really good shape, would you please pass me the Oreos and a gallon of milk so I can sit here on my butt and watch the game? Do I really want to get in shape if that's how I'm spending my day?
No.
No. But if I say to you, I want to get in shape, listen, I'd like to watch the game, but I got to go ride my bike for 20 miles. And then I say, I got to go walk my dogs for 6 miles. And then I say, you know, when I'm done with that, let me do some stretching exercises and work my knees a little. Now we're talking about a guy who wants to get in shape. If you want a good grade, if you want to pass, if you want to be successful, don't raise your hand. I don't want to see hands. I want to see work. I want to see action. That will produce. Chris? You had your hand up a second ago.
Oh, I was gonna say that milk is healthy.
Yes, the milk part is healthy. The gallon of milk is not healthy, and the box of Oreos is not healthy. A little bit of Oreos and a little bit of milk is not a big deal. Just like you don't have to do schoolwork all day, every day. In all honesty, if you did all your homework every night, how long would it take for all of your classes put together?
15 minutes. Depends.
I think it would be more, but let's say you're right. If it's 15 minutes, there's no excuse on the face of the earth for not doing it. And I would say about an hour. That would be, I think if the teachers are doing their jobs, you should have about an hour's worth of work a night. So are you telling me that your future is not worth an hour every night? That's insane. If you tell me no, now we know what the problem is. That's exactly right. I was thinking of whether I would say it or not, but you said it for me. Well done. Okay, now.
I deserve an Oreo for that.
Y equals, and Chris, I don't remember what you got on the quiz today, but generally speaking, this year, maybe it's not quite as good lately, but generally speaking this year, you have been doing a really great job. So you just want to keep it up, and there's going to be temptation along the way to lose your concentration. and to just slow down a little bit. Don't slow down. Keep the pedal to the metal, keep working. Y equals negative 2/3 x minus 4. Now we're going to go in the opposite direction. In the first set of problems, we drew you the graph, and then we said, listen, here's the graph. Do me a favor, tell me what the equation is. Now I'm saying, hey, here's the equation. Do me a favor, draw the graph. So the two things I look for don't change. I look for M and B. What's the slope, everybody? Come on, look. What's the slope? Negative 2/3. Turn. Now, what's the y-intercept? What is it, everybody? Negative 4. Now, here's the thing. I saw a few people, and what they would do is they go to negative 4 here. Is that the y-intercept?
No.
No. That is the what?
X.
X-intercept. The y-intercept is down here. So I make my mark. Now, how do I move? Talk to me, guys. How do I move?
Down to
How did you say up 3?
Down to.
Negative is down, and how many? 2 over 3. Down 2 over 3. Down 2 over 3. Go on this side. Now, listen, I gotta be honest with you. And I am, you know, this is a little bit insulting, but sometimes you need a kick in the butt. If you got that question wrong, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If somebody said to me that they would give me a class of 3rd graders, and if I could get those 3rd graders to do this kind of question in 3 days, they would give me $100 for every kid who got it right in 3 days. I would go to the kids and say, listen, I'll give you 25 bucks each if you can do this in 3 days. Every 3rd grader in the room will get it right. And I make 75 bucks a kid. Because they're gonna give me 100, I'll give the kid 25, I'll keep 70. Every one of them could get it right. So if you're getting this wrong, it is not because you're dumber than a 3rd grader. It is because you have decided that it is not worth your effort. And when that happens, at the end of the day, who is going to suffer? You are. It's as simple as that. Okay, next question. And the last one I asked you to graph was y equals x minus 3. Again, it all comes down to M and B. What is the slope? Talk to me. What's the slope? Don't be scared. 1, good. Now, what's the number in front of the x when I don't bother to write it? 1. And what's the y-intercept? Negative 3. Do I go over here?
Nope.
No, right here. And the slope is up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Remember, when I have a whole number slope like this, it's always over 1. If it was 7, it would be 7 over 1. If it was 3, it would be 3 over 1. If it was negative 2, it would be negative 2 over 1. Whole numbers, integers, always over 1. Okay, so that, folks, is graphing y equals mx plus b. Incredibly important stuff. It will be, I don't know if it's going to be 30, 40, or 50 points on your next test, but it's going to be a huge amount of your next test. It will be equal to or greater than the amount of points you have on review questions on your next test. Okay, next, write the equation of the line whose slope is 1/2 and whose y-intercept is 4. So we just said before, as soon as I start equations of lines, I start thinking y equals mx plus b. So the y, the equals, and Mr. Roach, the x, must stay there. Now, where does the slope go, everybody? Where?
For the X.
Before the x. What's the slope in the problem? 1/2. So guess where I put the 1/2? In front of the x. What goes at the end? The y-intercept. In this case, it is 4. Don't just put 4. It's a positive 4, so you got to put positive 4. Y equals 1/2 x plus 4. Again, not a very complicated question. Something you can definitely get right and do at will. Now, find the slope of the line connecting those two. This is something we've done a little bit of work with each day, and I can understand you're struggling with this one, because we haven't emphasized it as much as we have y equals mx plus b. But remember the slope formula. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And there is a very natural, understandable attitude from a kid to be a little intimidated by that. And to say, oh, what is this 2 stuff, 1 stuff? It's driving me crazy. Relax. all it means is the y from the second point minus the y from the first point over the x from the minus the x from the first point. I don't care which point you label 1 and 2. It makes no difference. I'm just going to go 1 and 2. Okay, so according to Mr. Friend, and boy was he right with this, you draw the fraction for the formula and you put the 2 minuses there. What's the y from the second point? Everybody? Come on, the y from the second point. 7. What's the y from the first point? 4. What's the x from the second point? 1. What's the x from the first point?
-2.
-2. Uh-oh, circle agregar. That's why you got to make sure you put those minuses there, because some kids will forget it. So 7 minus 4 is 3, 1 plus 2 is 3, the slope is 1. That's it. Okay? Now, the next one says, graph the line connecting 0, 0 with 4, 4, find its slope. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to graph 2 lines, this one and the next one. But in order for me to do that, I have to pull this up, and I'm going to rely on your help. Okay? So let me graph the first line in red. That's from number 3, and it says from 0, 0. This is not a good time to do homework. And 4, 4. And it says graph that line. There's the line. What is the slope of that line? Everybody take a look. Tell me the slope. Rach, what do we got for a slope here? No cringing. You got to watch. How am I going from point to point to point to point to point? Remember, I'm going up by 1 and over by 1. Good. So we would say for this line, the slope is 1 over 1. Excellent. Nicely done. Okay, now, what were the coordinates for number 2? -2, 4. -2, 4. And what was the other one?
1, 7.
1, 7?
Mhm.
1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now, what's the slope of this line to go from point to point to point? What am I going to get there?
1 over 1.
Up 1 over 1 again. Hey, what do you notice about those 2 lines? They're parallel. They go on forever and ever and ever. They stay the same distance apart. They're like railroad tracks, okay? Now, what was the slope of this line? 1 over 1. What was the slope of this line?
1 over
1 over 1. So here is an eternal mathematical truth. Parallel lines have equal slopes. And that's what I want to discuss with you today. Parallel lines have equal slopes. Anytime the slopes are the same, the line's going to be parallel, unless it's the same line on top of itself, which could happen, but it's pretty rare. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Let's get going a little deeper into the pattern. Find the slope of each of those lines. Go ahead, do it. Okay, this top line, what's the slope? 1 over 1 again. What's the bottom line slope? 1 over 1 again. And what do you notice about those lines? They're parallel, so we're reinforcing. Now, just to show you, what if I changed it? What if I took this line with the same y-intercept and I went 1 over 2? Here would be my line. And now let's do the next one with this y-intercept and go 1 over 2. What do you notice about them again?
They're still parallel.
They're still parallel. So the slopes don't have to be 1. It could be a half, it could be 2/3, it could be -99/8. Makes no difference. As long as the 2 slopes are the same, they're going to always end up being parallel. Okay, now, take a look here. Now I'm going to give it to you in what we call an analytic form. I'm not going to actually graph the lines. I'm going to think about it a little bit. Are these two lines parallel, yes or no? How do you know they're parallel?
I did it.
Yes.
I'd rather you have not done it. I think you should be able to look at it and know that they're parallel. Why are they parallel?
Because we both have the same slope.
That's right. They both have the same slope. What's the slope for both of these lines, guys? 3. We look here for the slope. If I want to check out if things are parallel, I am going to look right at the slope. I don't care about the y-intercepts. I care about the slopes. Are the slopes the same? Yes, they are. They're both 3. What about the next line? Are they parallel? Bless you.
No.
No, why not? Everybody? One is positive a half. What's the other one?
Negative.
Negative. See, that one's negative, this one's positive. Now, what if they were both negative 1/2? Would that then be parallel?
Yes.
Yes. So they have to be exactly the same. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Below the equations of 4 lines are given. Circle each of the lines that are parallel. So some of those lines are parallel to each other. Circle them on your paper to the ones that are parallel. Who knows which 2 of those lines are parallel? Somebody who hasn't helped me yet. Stephen, which of those 2 lines are parallel? What? No. So Kyle, what do you think? Which of the 2 lines are parallel?
Second one.
And which one? The second one is one of them. There's one other line that's parallel to the second one. No, because that's a negative.
The first one?
The first one. See, here they're both positive 1/2. The fourth one was a negative 1/2. Be very careful about those negative signs. So far, what have we learned about parallel lines?
Both have the same slope.
They have the same slope. Very good. Have the same slope. Okay, now, we can do a little teamwork now. Use the graph below to graph these 3 lines. Before you graph them, predict which ones will be parallel, and then confirm it with your graph. So predict by looking at the equations which ones you think will be parallel, then use y equals mx plus b, beginning at the y-intercept b, and then doing the slope to graph all 3 of them and see which ones work out to be parallel. Go ahead, do that now. No, I ran out, but there's paper towels in the back section over there. All right, which 2 do you think are parallel, guys? The first 2, right? All right. Great job, folks. Hasta la vista. Vaya con Dios. Toodaloo. Ta-ta. Arrivederci. Smile a lot. Ciao. Arrivederci. Adios, amigos y amigas. Cheerio. Sayonara. Gadafis. Garushurus.